Welcome back, welcome back, everyone, to another Eat Speak podcast, the most delicious podcast in Metroplex. I'm Bud Kennedy.
And Steve Wilson.
It is rodeo time in Fort Worth. Usually it's rodeo time in January, but this year it's rodeo time in December. So our guest today from Reata Restaurant is Mike Micallef of Riyada. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Bud. Hey, Steve. Great seeing you guys.
How are you doing? How are the Cowboys starting to trickle into the restaurant over there?
Yeah, I mean, we actually saw a fair amount of the Cowboys attendees yesterday evening. You know, so one of the interesting things is obviously the rodeo is over in Arlington at Globe Life Field. It came from Las Vegas, which was in the Thomas and Mack Center out there, which is part of UNLV. But that stadium out in Vegas only could seat about 17,000. Obviously, with COVID, things had to adjust. But they can go to Arlington, and at 50% capacity, they're still sitting at like 20,000 possible attendees. But in Fort Worth, we've got Cowboy Christmas. And so what Cowboy Christmas is a bunch of shopping events. So the official Cowboy Christmas is here at the convention center here in downtown. And then it's my understanding the Resistol Cowboy Christmas is over at Will Rogers. And that's kind of in partnership with the National Cutting Horse Association, which the future is going on right now. And then there's other Cowboy Christmases going over in the stockyards. So we've got a lot of events.
This is sort of like when the Super Bowl came and when we had the NFL experience. You know, there are a lot of events for the public to go to, even if you're not going to the National Finals rodeo. And like you said, the cutting horse folks have been in town, and that means a lot of Cowboys coming in and out of Riyada. We want to talk to you about what the Cowboys eat and what they order when they come to town, and what you've got to serve them. But first, I want you to tell us a little bit about what the year has been like and the ups and downs of this year. We'll get around to talking about steaks in a minute, but kind of tell us about how you've gone through this whole ordeal. You know,
so I think the restaurants in downtown have been harder hit than most, and mainly that's because a lot of our business was business related and or convention related, and those are the things that have really slowed down probably the most. I think if you look at the hotel occupancy rates, in downtown in October, they're about 27%, but outside of downtown, they're about 47% occupancy. So, it kind of shows how hard it has been for restaurants in downtown. That being said, our sales are down about 40% last week compared to prior year. Obviously when we reopened in May, it was even slower than that. So it is slowly built up. But this is kind of holiday season. It's usually a very popular time for the restaurant. We're a big restaurant, being 22,000 square feet. So we have a lot of private dining rooms and stuff like that. So traditionally in December, we've got holiday parties or multiple holiday parties in the different rooms and different levels of the restaurants every night. We still have a few of those holiday parties where people that want to book those, but we're doing a little bit of everything. We've been doing a lot of what we call hot spots, where we deliver families outside of the community. We've been doing some, hot spots for some businesses where we're basically providing them kind of a holiday meal, but to their employees, but bringing them to their location and doing things like that. So all the restaurants are pivoting and seeing ways that they can make it through the storm, so that we can see hopefully a big improvement in 2021.
I know you were one of the four horsemen, so to speak, leading the Christmas parade. The downtown restaurateurs were the leaders and the heroes of the Christmas parade. That was you and Gloria from Capitol Grill, Adam Jones from Grace, and who am I leaving out? John Bennell, of course, John Bennell. Yep. So that the four horsemen of downtown restaurants, and with the plaza closed and things being up in the air, the plaza is not open, but there's a tree, so you can look at Christmas decorations. And actually, it's an easier time to come downtown and park and find, if you want a restaurant with a lot of distance, I think Riyada and the downtown restaurants have got a lot of distance. You probably got enough room for everybody in the group to sit 6 feet apart. So you've got.
Yeah, we've placed all of our tables 6 feet apart. Obviously, this is a process that we're all moving through. I think what we got to do is we got to continue to move forward, but we have to do that safely. I think, all the downtown merchants want to do that. We've got great support from Visit Fort Worth, which is our Convention and Visitors Bureau, but then also with Downtown Fort Worth Inc. and the Fort Worth Chamber. They've all worked together. And, even in preparation for the national finals, they've got 500,000 masks ready to distribute, So I think we're all, as a concerted effort, we want to move forward, but we want to do it safely.
And that's a good thing, because I hear some of the Cowboys didn't bring one.
I don't know about that, but if not, we've got 50,000 of them, so we can give them 10 every day of the rodeo.
Yeah, they'll be ready. Steve, I know you go to Riyada a lot. What are some of the things that you get when you go to Riyada? I've got my little favorite that is not what anybody would expect, but talk about when you go to Riyada. We go to a lot of time when we go to lunch downtown, back in the days when we worked downtown.
Yeah, I really like the soups. Actually, they do a soup of the day. I'll actually call ahead and find out what the soup of the day is, and say, "Oh, hey, I want that," and I'll go in and have the soup. And they have like a saddle pack where I'll get the soup and the tamales. They have these tenderloin tamales that are really good, and so I usually get. I guess this is actually tamale kind of season right now, right?
Yeah, Michael, let's talk about the tamales in a minute, and I'll tell you that I come in, I call and say, "What's the salad of the day?" And right. I come in and get a salad. Now, I know the Cowboys on the chuck wagon weren't sitting around eating salad, but I enjoy coming to Riyada and having a salad. And Mike, the one thing, if people are who are watching or listening haven't been to Riyada, your tamales are your signature dish, and kind of talk about those tamales. How the idea came up, how they got started, what's inside. Talk a little bit about those Riyada tamales.
Yeah, so the tamales really came about because we cut all of our own tenderloins in house, and when you cut up a whole tenderloin, you've got basically the tips of those tenderloins, and it creates some scrap. So we were trying to figure out what to do with that scrap, and that's how we basically came up with we grind that tenderloin, and we make it into a 5-ounce tamale. So I think most of us are used to getting tamales where there's barely any meat in it. That's not our tamale. There's a lot of meat in them. They're finished with a sun-dried tomato cream and a pecan pesto on top of it. But definitely one of our signature dishes. Some of the most popular dishes at Riyada have always been our steaks. We've got a pan-seared pepper crusted tenderloin with a port wine glaze. We also have a bone-in ribeye, a regular ribeye, and then kind of just for the NFR, we're actually going to run like a 48-ounce like tomahawk ribeye for the next 10 days. So
48-ounce tomahawk ribeye. And
that's you and your wife can share it and have a great time.
I was going to say that's for the whole table to share, right?
Well, no, you and your wife, and I believe in you. I think you can polish it off, and you can take the bone home for your dog.
The picture you said has some scallops on it too. Is that how you serve it, or?
So I think during the national finals, we're going to serve it without the scallops, but we're actually going to serve it with the scallops for New Year's Eve. So.
Okay.
Well, what are the dishes that are like the secrets at Riyada? What are the dishes that people ought to order more that they don't know about? Kind of, I don't mean necessarily secret menu, but what's something at Riyada that's really good that people are missing out on? Yeah,
personally, I'm a huge carne asada fan.
Yeah.
I think that's for me, that skirt steak's an awesome steak. It tends, obviously it's a little bit chewier than a ribeye or a tenderloin, but I think it's got a ton of flavor. So that's one of my favorites. We serve it with a couple of cheese enchiladas on top of it. So that's a really, really good item. And similar to you, Bud, I'm a huge salad eater. So a lot of times as featured salads, we'll have some of the skirt steak on it or have chicken on it. That's always a great item for us. But we do have a buffalo burger that changes every week. And where the chefs are basically coming up with a buffalo and either putting, fried onion rings on top of it, putting bacon with it, putting a sauce on top of it. So there are some changes that are happening every day. In the evening, we obviously have a seafood feature and a chop feature. And also on the weekends, we'll even have a game feature. So sometimes we'll feature a duck or a type of a venison also.
And that's a bison burger you're talking about. It's a leaner than a regular beef. That's a bison burger.
It is. Absolutely.
So it's a little better for you. You have a lunch that has some different specials. Do you still have the fried chicken and the lunch specials, or is that something that is on a temporary menu now?
The fried chicken is not a temporary thing; it's an everyday thing now. So okay. The fried chicken we did used to do it one day a week, and now we just basically put it on the menu full time. So, but that's one of the
rings up as the Monday. It still rings up as the Monday special.
Monday special?
Yeah,
Monday,
when you get the
Monday special
check,
every day.
It says Monday special on it.
So, Steve, you've been coming downtown and getting some fried chicken?
I really like the fried chicken. I thought they got it for me because I would go and they were experimenting with it, trying different sides and stuff, and I was going there every Monday to get it. And then it turns out, I think Al really likes fried chicken, and so it was actually for him, your dad.
It was. My dad's a big fan. We got a different type of a fryer, more of a broaster, and a lot of that was, he grew up in Michigan, in Detroit. So it was him trying to bring some of the experiences he had back there and incorporating that into our menu. So,
well, people love fried chicken, and I don't think enough people know about Riyada's fried chicken. And I'll point out here, Steve, I'm sure you're picking things up curbside, and I picked up my orders curbside the other day too. So, I mean, you can just pull up and they'll bring it out to you. And besides having 3 floors of spaced out tables and is the patio upstairs heated? Do you have heaters up on top?
We do have heaters on the patio, and then we actually have some plastic curtains up there on the sunset deck to try to remove the wind from the situation. Yeah. So we're open. We're trying to accommodate everybody. I think we realize that some people are comfortable eating inside of a restaurant, some people are comfortable eating outside on a patio, and some people are comfortable picking up curbside. Yeah. We're trying to accommodate people to whatever they feel comfortable with. And then on top of that, then we're doing what we call them these hot spots, but that's where we're basically, people are pre-ordering those family meals for 4. And then we're delivering them, out into the community. We've got a couple that we did this week. And then the rest of the month, really, where we've got tamale drop-offs. One starting next week at the Center of Hope out in Weatherford. And then we've got another one in Weatherford and one in Granbury in Fort Worth, where we're going to be delivering these tamales around. And then we did this for Thanksgiving. It was successful. We're basically preparing all the sides for you. So we call it like the take and bake, where you're given all these sides, you're still cooking the main item, but we're just taking some pressure off you when you're having to cook at home.
And I think, did 203 Cafe have that too, or there was a 203 Cafe?
So 203 partnered with Riyada, and what 203 did is 203 did all the pies out of it, and then Riyada did the other side. So 203 is our other sandwich shop that we opened up just over 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. They're in the old fire station. They're on the second floor between the Wells Fargo and Bank of America towers. That restaurant's been particularly hard hit. And it's mainly because, it was really designed to serve those tenants in the towers, right? And so obviously people working from home and that kind of has really affected that. But we've worked with our landlord, and we've worked on different ways we can help generate some additional revenue, like doing the palais in partnership with Riyada.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward. 203 would be a great grab and go cafe, but you can't just leave your car in the loading zone and run up and grab whatever you're grabbing. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting spot, though. It's like old firehouse number 1 or something, and it's like they built the left the firehouse and built one of those giant towers around it.
Well, and I'll tell you, we've got a team there, so something you can order online, and you can order online easily. But if you order online, pull up into the loading zone, we will run it down to you. So.
Oh, really? From 203. And by the way, that parking garage next to 203 is the easiest place to find a parking place in downtown Fort Worth. If you're looking and you're coming to the garages, that garage next to 203 is usually the easiest place to park.
It really is. So it's Garage 1. It's called Garage 1, City Center Garage 1. You can exit off both Commerce or Calhoun Street. But when you go up the ramp to the first level, that's all 2.5 hour parking. We validate all that parking, so it won't charge you, it won't cost you a thing. And if you wanted to walk into 203, you could park in that 2.5 hour parking. And literally from the door to the parking lot to the door at 203 is probably 150 feet. So very, very convenient.
Well, Mike, what's your understanding of the future of downtown and the plaza? When do you think things will come back up? When do you think things will open back up? And what do you expect when it all opens back up?
that is hard for me to predict. I would love to be able to tell you. Unfortunately, I think this virus is obviously going to be with us for a while. I even think in a year from now, the coronavirus is still going to be around. Do I think we're going to have to worry about it like we are now about stressing the hospital system? No, because I think, the virus, not the virus, but the vaccines will be out there and enough people will take them that will take that pressure off. Yeah. But I think this is something that we're going to be living with and are working our way through. So I think my prediction is really we're probably looking more at the second half of 21 about things getting back to normal. I know, with the various boards that I sit on, I think DFW Airport is really thinking that 2022 is going to be the year when it becomes back to normal. So, but obviously we're going to be out there doing things in a safe manner, moving forward, ready to serve the guests.
We come back to work on July 1st is when we're supposed to come back downtown, by the way. So I think that's the way in some other businesses. Talk a little bit for anyone who's not familiar with Riyada. It's a 25-year history. You started in Alpine, which is having its own little COVID outbreak right now. But talk about the history of Riyada and kind of how it started and how it grew as the home of Cowboy Cuisine.
Yeah. So we bought a ranch out in Alpine in 1991, and you have to know my dad. He's a serial entrepreneur. So in 1995. There was an old adobe house that would have been made into a restaurant called Downtown Browns, and right basically in the middle of Alpine, Texas. He bought that building. We started the first Riyada in April of 1995. Now, the name Riyada actually comes from the movie Giant because it's the name of the ranch in the movie Giant. So that's how we got the name of the restaurant. The movie Giant was filmed on the other side of Marfa, about 30 miles from the restaurant. So obviously we opened up there, successful that fall. A banker from Fort Worth named Bob Simple came out to the ranch, and he was hunting with one of his clients, and he ate at the restaurant, and he said, "Hey, why don't you open up a restaurant here in Fort Worth?" At the top of the Bank One building was the Century 2 Club, and that club had been out of business for a couple of years. So he said, "Hey, we'll work with you on the lease. We'd like to see you in Fort Worth." So we came to Fort Worth. So we had the restaurant in Alpine seats about 60 people inside, maybe another 50 or 60 outside. And then all of a sudden we were in downtown Fort Worth on the 35th floor of the Bank One Tower in a space that was 14,000 square feet. So when we built out the restaurant, we didn't even build out the whole floor because we were like, how do we fill this thing up? And we had free valet, right there at the bottoms. And then when people were leaving, the host or hostesses called down to the valet and said, "Hey, Bud and Steve are coming down." So they had your cars waiting for you when you got down there. But from day one, we were very successful. Fort Worth really welcomed us, and that was at a time that Sundance Square and the momentum in downtown was really accelerating. So we opened there in May of 96. So things were happening. Obviously we got hit by the tornado in March of 2000. We reopened in 42 days. But then had to leave the building in January of 2001. And that's really when we started doing a lot of catering. We were just trying to keep our name relevant in the community and keeping as many of our team members still employed. So then January of 2002 was the first opened up a Reata at the rodeo. So that was the first Reata at the rodeo. We did that for a number of years. Took over the backstage club. Then we opened La Escuela. A couple years after that, we opened up a couple Starbucks out there. So when the rodeo was going on, we had 5 different locations out there. But we moved here to where we are part of Sundance Square in May of 2002.
You're in the former Caravan of Dreams at 310 Houston Street. So
exactly. Yes. And this is a 22,000 square foot restaurant. We're 4 floors. So you've got the ground floor that you walk in when you park in the valet lane. We've got 5 private dining rooms on this floor. We've actually got a private dining room in the basement called the 35th floor. And that's basically giving people a little bit of the experience that you got when you were at the top of the Bank One building. So, in there, it looks like there's windows and there's a backlit pictures basically showing the view that you got from the old Riyada there on the 35th floor of the Bank One building. And then we got the rooftop, and that's 2 different levels. We've got Caballo Canyon, which is kind of the 3rd floor. And we've got the 4th floor, which has got the sunset decks, got a big, large bar, and then it also has the dome. And that dome, in normal times, seats about 110. Doesn't seat that many people right now with 6-foot table spacings, but a really, really nice space. There's lots of people that you just come and dine up there, but then we do a lot of wedding receptions and rehearsal dinners and things like that. So we're lucky to have a great restaurant with a lot of different types of spaces to fit our guests' needs.
And of course, you started with right off the bat with a reputation for chicken fried steak and for steaks and for Texas dishes. And I mean, how did you define Cowboy Cuisine? You've had about 12 different chefs, I think, some of them who've gone on to open some other great restaurants. But you define Riyada as the home of Cowboy Cuisine, and how did you define that?
Yeah, I don't know if we're the home of Cowboy Cuisine, but I think we've certainly moved that along. And I think that the Cowboy Cuisine and that Texas cuisine really is a melding of flavors, And I think we're still in Texas. I still think, steaks are really the base of kind of that pyramid. But then you start pulling in different flavors. We've got a redfish on the menu here. So you pull in about a little of that southern Texas coast, maybe a little bit of Creole into the thing. Obviously we've got close ties to Mexico and that southwestern and Tex-Mex cuisine. So you have items on the menu like carne asadas or some pork tacos or things like that. So for me, it really is a melding of the flavors of all those different, cuisines and communities and ethnicities here in the state.
You brought back some dishes from time to time. What's on the menu that is exactly the way it was the day you opened?
God, I think the pan-seared pepper crusted tenderloin's been on the menu since day one, and it's been one of the best selling menus, best selling items. Obviously you talked about the chicken fried steak. That's been on there. That's been there for a long time. Obviously the ribeyes don't change.
I think the creamy poblano soup was there you opened.
Yeah, the jalapeno, exactly. The jalapeno and cilantro soup's been one on there. And then we also have a tortilla soup that sells extremely well also. So I can
like a bread pudding or something too.
We do have a bread pudding. The bread pudding is
banana pudding. Banana puddings are
we do a banana pudding. We also do a bread pudding. The bread pudding, it was not always in a tortilla, but now we basically make it up to be a tortilla. And that was really because we have another item on a dessert menu called the dessert tacos, where they're like little taco, sugar taco shells filled with ice cream. And then you've got mint on there that is supposed to look like lettuce. You've got cut up strawberries that are supposed to look like tomatoes. So that's been one of our best selling desserts. So kind of on a pivot from that, we started wrapping up our bread pudding, into tamale husks. So they look very similar to our tamales that we serve for an appetizer, but it's a bread pudding tamale with chocolate chunks in it.
Well, and see, that makes me think that Riyada is one of the few restaurants that still has this tradition of the dessert tray, and the server brings the dessert tray with all the 12 beautiful looking desserts, and you pick what you want. And I wish somebody would walk in the room behind you right now, Mike, with a dessert tray and show off all the desserts. That'd be a great little spectacle.
Get one, but unfortunately, I think I'm in live. So
that's right. We're after lunch. The lunch run's just about ended, so probably people have eaten all the desserts right now. Steve, do you have any other questions about Riyada or about the coming couple of weeks? It's a holiday season.
Well, I'm at. Do you have any suggestions about people that haven't been to National Finals Rodeo? What's going on? I'm at because have you gone to the one in Vegas?
So I've been up to the one in Vegas about 5 times. So and I went out there. God, in the mid to late 90s, and it has evolved a lot since then. So in the mid to late 90s, it was big, but there was one Cowboy Christmas that was at the Sands Convention Center there in Vegas. Well, that shopping portion of Cowboy Christmas has gotten so popular that the official Cowboy Christmas, which is the one that's at our convention center here, it basically took over the entire Las Vegas Convention Center. And if you haven't been to Vegas, that's just an absolutely huge facility. But then there are other shopping events all over Vegas. And that's what you've kind of seen come here to Fort Worth, where you've seen You've seen the one over at Will Rogers and then the one over in the Stockyards. So the best place I would say is go to Visit Fort Worth or fortworth.com, which is Visit Fort Worth, our Convention of Visitors Bureau website. On their homepage, they've got a national finals rodeo picture. Click on that, and that basically details all the different events that are happening both in Fort Worth and in Arlington, in our whole communities. But then it also talks a little bit about the health and safety measures that we've put into place to make sure that we have a safe rodeo season here in Fort Worth.
Well, and Steve, I know that we usually talk about other dining news and Eats Beat news. I'll tell you that on the Eats Beat page at Star Telegram or dfw.com/eatsbeat or startelegram.com/eatsbeat, you'll find news about the closest little steakhouse to the rodeo, the Candlelight Inn in Arlington. Been there 65 years and inexpensive little steak roadhouse that's all decorated for the holidays. You'll also find a rundown on where to go for Christmas dinner in Fort Worth. There aren't as many places open as there were on Thanksgiving. Ruth's Chris is open. Toro Toro is open. Mercury Chop House downtown and in Arlington are open. And Brio in Southlake are open. So far, that's about it. Do you know of any other places open on Christmas? Mike, I know you're not open. You take Christmas off.
We do take. We give our Thanksgiving, Christmas, we give our employees some time with their families.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only place that I always know that's open every day of the year is Chinese First Barbecue.
That's right. First Chinese Barbecue in Haltom City on East Belknap. And that's where you find the foodies on Christmas Day. The foodies all go to First Chinese Barbecue, I promise you. So, it's a great place to go any day, but it's kind of a little secret cult hangout where you see the chefs and the food people in town all go for Chinese food on Christmas Day. So it's fun. All right. Well, do we have any other Eat Speak news to cover, Steve? Anything else open, close, new?
Not that I know of. You're the one with all that info.
Mike, anything downtown?
No, I think the biggest thing in downtown is that, we're excited over this Christmas season and we're all excited. One of the things I'll say about us is that, we plan on being open from like basically 5 p.m. to 10:45, because I know when I've attended the rodeo out in Vegas, I think it starts at 6:45, gets over early. So I think it starts too early to eat before. So we said, okay, we're going to keep reservations open until 10:45 to help serve people later. But then literally yesterday, we had a bunch of calls of people wanting to come eat at 4. So beginning tomorrow, we're going to be actually open at 4 o'clock for those people that want to eat before they want to go to the rodeo. So, during the national finals, we're going to be taking reservations from 4 to 10:45 every day. We're just looking forward to seeing all these people in Fort Worth from around Texas and our surrounding states.
Yeah, so far the buzz I'm hearing, there are 2 places people say, go to Riyada, you have to go to Riyada, and go to B&B Butchers because B&B Butchers is running their van shuttle service from the steakhouse to Globe Life and back. So I think Riyada and B&B seem to be the 2 big rodeo hangouts so far. Well, I hope you have a great rodeo, Mike. Thanks for coming on and talking to us today.
Great seeing you guys, and y'all have a great Christmas.
Thanks. Until next time, I'm Bud Kennedy.
And Steve Wilson.
Clear?
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so.
Just